there and welcome. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Evening Review. My name is Ogito Greg, and today in studio joining us is Mr. Delphin Ilunga. He's the Vice Chair of FENATA, that is the Federation of Namibian Tourism Associations. Good day, sir.
Good day, sir. I'm very glad to be here and happy to having me.
Thank you very much. Tell us a little bit about your background in tourism here in Namibia.
Well, I've been in the industry for the last 18 years. So I started first as a tour consultant at one of the local companies where I worked for about 9 years. So I did evolve, from the tour consultant to venture into tour guiding. I went for the training for tour guiding, and eventually I qualified as a level 4 tour guide in Namibia. Then I started to do tour guiding, and then eventually I had to move the rank, into operations, and I became an operation manager for that same company until I decided to open up my own and then venture on my own as my own tour operator that is now called Fura Tours and Safari. That has been in existence for the last 13 years.
Excellent, and congratulations. Now, just yesterday, it was announced that a new visa regime and also e-visa system is operational now here in Namibia. Can you tell us, what do you think the impact of the new visa regime and e-visa system will be on the tourism industry?
Well, I have to say that, this is the date that we've been waiting for, because if you look at the way tourism operate, we always operate ahead of time. So we needed this information like way before, even before we had the sad news of our founding president that died. So we were pushing for that information. So when it came in yesterday, so it was a very good news for us, because then it allowed, the link to be activated, and our client are now in a position to, to press that button and try to apply online. So it is, something very good that we've been waiting for. And also it allows, client to apply for a visa from the comfort of their homes, yes, which is very convenient, And because of that, it also allow, it reduces actually the queues at the port of entry. Imagine that everyone had to have, the visa upon arrival. So that means they have to come with all their documents, and they have to queue, they have to be screened. But by having already a number of tourists coming already with the e-visa, which is already approved, that reduces the queue, at the port of entry and at the airport itself. Yes. So they just need to produce that, and of course the immigration can ask 1 or 2 questions, but it's not that much, because they already have an e-visa that's approved, yes, and then they can come into the country. So that's a very good move.
Reduced queues is always welcome.
That's correct.
Yeah. Tell me, how has the industry, in collaboration with various government stakeholders, worked to minimize any negative effects of this new system on the tourism industry?
Well, I have to say that when the announcement was made, that was sometime in May 2024. When that announcement was made, it came as a shock to us, because now then we were thinking, how will that affect it? Affect our industry, and how it's going to work, whether our traditional source markets are going to withdraw, from coming to Namibia. Now, because of all that worries, then we really engaged with the government. We tried to, to show them, maybe just to provide our own assistance as well. The aim for us was like to make it as smooth as possible, yes, to allow tourists to still come to the country. So I have to say that, we were beneficiaries of an open door policy, yes, especially to the Ministry of Home Affairs. They listened to our concern. They, took some of that, actually the majority of it, into account. Excellent. One of them was because they wanted first to implement it, I think sometime in September and then November. So we said, look, the time is short. Can you please try to push it? So they listened to us. And then one of the key areas in which we really worked hard to try and collaborate with this ministry was to reduce the requirement, because that's something that could actually negatively impact our source market. So, imagine that you need to come and you have to provide 6-month bank statement and things like that. So those type of requirements, we try to bring it forth, to the government and say these, are not going to work. And we are happy to say that they listened to us, they took that into account. And when we apply today online, all you need to do is just to fill up your application form, and then probably just need to put a copy of your passport, and then you are good to go. So we are very happy for that open door policy that we benefited from the Ministry of Home Affairs, Immigration, Safety and Security.
Excellent, excellent. How does the new system aid the development of the local tourism industry?
Well, it's it's something that is going to help because there are some selected entry point where the e-visa and the visa upon arrival is going to be implemented. At the moment, I think there are only 11 entry points in which you can actually do that. It's good for us because it allows cross-border tours. Yes. Imagine you are in a Caprivi trip, then you need to do a tour between Kasane, Victoria Falls, and then back into Namibia. That is going to help. The fact that it's a multiple entry visa, and also the fact that those borders, like the Ngoma border post, as a facility to actually, accommodate this visa upon arrival and the e-visa, this is going to help. Now, in terms of the locals, of course, some of the countries that were not part of our traditional source market have been added to the list of the visa upon arrival. So that can be another opportunity to, some of the SMEs and other smaller companies to try to tap from those type of market.
Excellent, excellent. Speaking of those entry points, there has been some confusion regarding points of entry like Mata Mata and Fuelsdrift that seem not to offer in-person visa applications nor to facilitate e-visas. Can you clarify a little bit what will happen?
Yes, at the moment, unfortunately, as I alluded to, there are only 11 selected points where facilities are there to actually facilitate e-visa and visa upon arrival. So those 11 points, are already operational. However, the government has said that they are looking at increasing, the number of those borders by providing some facilities at those other border posts that do not have them at the moment. And Mata Mata is one of them. Unfortunately, when you look at the list of 11, border posts, it's not there at the moment. So we just hope that in the near future, many more border posts will be given, those facilities, or maybe they will upgrade them to make sure that they can actually accommodate the visa upon arrival and the e-visa as well.
Let's go a bit back in time. This is recent development, isn't the only change in terms of visa. A few months ago, Namibia changed its stance in terms of visa, in terms of countries which didn't reciprocate the favorable requirements that we had. How has that impacted on the industry?
Well, as I did point it out already, those countries, when the announcement was made, for us it was like, no, it's going to be catastrophic.
Yes.
It's going to be catastrophic, especially if the requirements were cumbersome. If there were too many of them, you need to provide this, provide that, provide this. So that could have a negative impact on us. At the moment, because of the relaxation of the process, because of making easier the step-by-step process to obtain that e-visa, and because of that technological advancement which has been put forth now with the e-visa, because before we did not have e-visa. Yes. We had countries that could come and get visa upon arrival, so we had also countries that could just come in without any visa. Now the e-visa facilitate, or rather it helps, easing that pressure that we had, and we do not anticipate a decrease in terms of numbers due to that, because the e-visa allow them to really apply from the comfort of their home. And we feel like with the additional countries that have also now been added, those countries that were not benefiting from the e-visa, now they can also be added. We may even have a certain increase in terms of people coming to Namibia.
Excellent, excellent. Let's take a break now and we'll be back with a little bit more just after this. Welcome back. Here in studio with me is Mr. Delphin Ilunga. He is the Vice Chair of FENATA, that's the Federation of Namibian Tourism Associations. We were just talking about the new visa regime here in Namibia and the e-visas. But Mr. Ilunga, I'd like to ask you to share a bit of your experience with us. Over the years, tourism has changed in terms of what it means to Namibia. What has been your experience?
Well, tourism, as we all know, is one of the biggest contributors to the Namibian economy. So it's actually one of the pillars of the economy. If you look at the statistics that have been developed last year by the Namibia Satellite Account, the numbers actually speak volume, in terms of monetary contribution to the overall Namibian economy. And over the years, tourism has changed, has evolved to the better. Of course, apart from, the years which we suffered through COVID, we've been seeing now more and more people, trying to venture into tourism. And we've also been seeing, that, traditional low tourism season, which is normally from December to March, kind of being reduced, due to the, diversification of the source market that we've been involved in throughout, over the years. And that has helped to kind of reduce the, the traditional low season. And another evolvement that I've seen over the years is that, more and more facilities are being, built in many places, and we actually need more facilities, because even at the moment, when you want to book, guests in the desert or in the Maraland, you tend to struggle in terms of accommodation. And some of the roads have been kind of upgraded, just a little bit of them, not a lot of roads that have been really tarred. In the desert, there's a portion that have been tarred, and in the Maraland as well. But I know there are some plans to try and tar more roads, because that is going really to help, with the development of tourism. And more of people that were not very much involved in tourism, they say to see the benefit of tourism. And I also see a lot of more people that benefit, from tourism, especially in the rural areas, in terms of somebody maybe coming up with his curio shop, whatever, some, just trying to sell some stuff. And also some activities that are being developed by the locals in their areas, which we normally call cultural tourism. So all those type of things are getting there, but of course we still have a long way to go. We still have a lot of improvement to make.
Indeed, indeed. But what you are saying is very good news. And bearing in mind the situation here in Namibia, especially in terms of our high unemployment rate, I'd like you to share some of your advice. What do you think are some of the low-hanging fruits, some of the easiest things that people could try? And where do you think the big opportunities lie, the big potentials for developing tourism further and providing more opportunities for Namibians?
I would say in the rural areas, there are still a lot of things that, that people can do, that the locals can actually, take advantage of that as a low-hanging fruits. For example, they may come up with some sort of tourist product that they can develop, and then they can advertise it to operators like us, that do tours around the country, which then we can sell to, as part of the packages that we sell to the guests that come here. And the other thing that people can actually try to do is to create some sort of campsite or some tended camp and some accommodation facilities, especially in areas where we struggle to get accommodation. I've just mentioned the desert. I've also mentioned the Maraland. In the Maraland, for example, there are a lot of community areas where people can take advantage of that, and coming up with a campsite or some sort of tourism product that they can showcase, that they can market. Another potential area is actually the Caprivi Strip, and then which we call the Kavango West and Kavango East. There you have a lot of potential in terms of cultural tourism. So people want to see how Namibian people live, how people on their day-to-day life, actually interact with the animals. In that area, you've got, that interaction between humans and animals.
Yes.
Some of those things, can actually be developed and, be presented as tourist product that can actually boost, the rate of employment, to have more people benefiting from tourism.
And also, I imagine the food that we have here in Namibia.
The food that we have, we can, showcase that. I know there is an operator in Swakopmund that just showcase the traditional food, which becomes, a product in itself. And there's a lady in the Maraland, I think she showcased Herero traditional food, to tourists. People want to experience such things. So those are the things that, especially our young ones today, they can think, just outside the box, try to come up with tourist product, advertise it to tour operators, and then we can sell it to international partners, that bring tourists to Namibia.
Excellent, excellent. But with any kind of entrepreneurial endeavor, there are always risks involved. Maybe you could share some of the risks that our young people should look out for, but also some of the bigger risks that might be threatening the industry as a whole.
Well, I'll start by the last question, because one of the bigger risks that can threaten the industry as a whole is when we come to what is known as mass tourism.
Okay.
Like I say, if you allow a lot of people to come, then our conservancies will actually go down. People will do whatever they want. They're going to approach animals very close, because there are rules and regulations.
Yes.
The respect between humans and animals. All those things need to be taken into account if you want to be sustainable in our tourism industry. For the young ones, entrepreneurship is in itself a risk.
Yes.
Because you want to venture into something that you don't actually know how it's gonna work out to be, but it's worth taking a risk. As long as you've got a vision that you want to, you know exactly what you want to do. And also you can always have a contingency plan, like if this one does not work, this is where I rely on.
Yeah.
So then you venture in that, and you keep your focus. One of the things that actually kind of not make our young people to go forward is because sometimes they do not know how to distinguish between, an entity and themselves as the owner of that entity.
Okay.
So this is something that they need to learn from, management itself, which will help them to go further if they really want to venture into entrepreneurship and grow their business as independent businessmen.
Excellent. I want to touch on your point about the respect and the relationship between people and the environment. Just recently, the Ministry of Tourism was complaining about people in Etosha who were not respecting the rules and the regulations that are applicable. But the message I'd like you to share is for the rest of the population, people like me, for instance, who are not personally involved in tourism. What can we do to support you guys and to also maintain the attraction that our country has?
Well, there are a lot of work to be done. So a lot of educational work to be done, because the communities need to be educated in terms of the benefit that we derive from tourism. If everyone understand that these tourists that come, they bring the money and they want to see these animals, or they want to see this cultural heritage, or they want to see this particular place. We do not want to damage those areas of interest that we know these people that bring the money to Namibia, they actually come to see.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work in terms of community education, awareness, some sort of campaigns that we need to do to our communities to make sure that they understand that they too benefit from tourism. If they don't, then you will see people killing a springbok for food or anything in that line.
Yes, yes.
So community development and awareness campaigns are needed to make sure that everybody is on the same page.
Yeah, I think it's also important that we all educate ourselves.
That's
so
correct.
that we can educate each other.
That's correct.
And I think that our attitude towards tourists,
Yes.
we need to really safeguard that, and also safeguard the tourists themselves. One
Yes.
of the big worries is that is for safety.
Yes, that has been for some times now. As a private sector, FENATA, TASA, and or the association that falls under FENATA. FENATA, as you know, is the umbrella body, right? Yes. We've got some association underneath. We've been trying to work very hard in terms of safety and security of tourism. So we are engaging with NAMPO, I mean the Namibian police itself, and then some other security companies to make sure that our tourists feel safe when they come to Namibia. Recently, we've from time to time we hear these tourists have been robbed, these ones have been attacked then, and so we're trying really to work out toward that, and we've got a whole community that is involved in terms of protecting the tourists and making sure that they are safe when we're here, and we've got some numbers which we can call when something happens, so that there is a quick intervention, and then obviously the police has to take the matter into their hand, but we help the police to try and curb that insecurity around tourists.
Yeah, I understand that NAMPOL also has a tourism division.
Yes, correct.
Although I'm not sure where they are or how
we work with them, and that tourism division is in Bismarck Street. Okay. So we actually work with them. And then there is a body called TAC, that is Tourists Against Crime. Okay. It's made of some tour guide and some people that that have got interest into protecting tourists. So they're all working together, and then some of the numbers that are also like per region. So we know when something happened in Erongo region, this is the number we have to call. Then it can go to the police. But again, there's a lot of improvement to make. There's a lot of work that need to be done to make sure that we really curb crime against tourists.
And those numbers, are they available on your website?
Those numbers are actually available on FENATA. I'm just gonna double check whether we put it on, because they all evolved. Some of the people they change, and then they put then we have to update the numbers. But I will double check, and obviously I will recommend that those numbers are there so that everyone, when there is an issue, they can know whom to call, in a particular reason, and also then that person can obviously alert the police.
We're almost out of time. Do you have a final message that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Final message from me is that, well, there are two things. One, every change, when there's any change, sometimes we are scared. Sometimes we are, we've got a fear of the unknown. So the message is that let's allow time to go through. And then as the time goes by, we can try and polish through the government, with the government, to try and polish some of the hiccups that may be there. And in terms of the young people, so tourism is one of the pillars of the Namibian economy. So try to venture in it. If you think that you can, create a tourism product that you can try to sell, please do that, and then you can contact tour operators who can help you to market it.
Thank you very much. And thank you all very much for joining us. That's all we have time for tonight. But tomorrow night, there'll be another evening review. So please join us again. Thank you very much. Good night.